Hello, welcome to the House Medium, or welcome back to the House Medium. I'm Adele Levine, your House Medium, and this is going to be a part 2 of a podcast episode from last week. And this is about an OBE, out of body experience, near death experience. I'm getting a few of these. For those of you new to my podcast, this podcast is about paranormal things or paranormal experiences that people have had, and I have them send them into me via email. I read them, I put fun sound effects onto them, sprinkle a little bit of my magic onto it, and then I tell them what I see it was. So last week we had I've had my first two-parter, and I think you guys liked the two-parter. I'm batting my eyes because I think you like two-parters, so I might do some more of those. This was a great one to start with. This came from Carrie. She came from TikTok. She commented, see what happens when you interact with me. She commented on a video I posted. She mentioned that she was a Seventh-day Adventist. I, too, was raised Seventh-day Adventist. And I said, you have to come on to my podcast and tell me your story. And she agreed to come on. And I read the first part, or I read the whole email. So if you are coming into this episode and you haven't watched or listened to the first part of it, you should go back and listen to the first part of the episode, which was last week. If you are somebody new finding my podcast and you're binging, then I guess you're fine. But if you're just picking up on this podcast right now, then you might be a little lost. Just say you'll still enjoy it, but you may have missed a lot of the juicy parts. So I would go back. And in the first part, she talks us through what happened. She was in a car accident. Her two children were in the car. They were both saved, miraculously saved. There was something that came along and saved one of her kids that she saw the image of a being, wasn't sure how that happened. And then she goes into the hospital and she finds herself out of her body. Then she finds herself going into different rooms. And where we leave off, she is just about to tell us how she goes, I think I'm going to go wander around this hospital and see and be nosy and see who I see. And that's where we left off. And there's more to this story that we're going to get into. Before we get into that, we need to go into the Medium Brew Cafe. Couple of reasons. One, I have a few announcements. Now, this is Halloween's coming up, and it's your girl's time of year. Meaning, I'm always Halloween. Halloween is always for me. But this is the time of year where people are you all are into what I am doing. All of you decide to join me into this realm. And I just really look forward to that because for about a month and a half, everybody's into the spirit world. And because of that, I'm doing seances. So I have some cool announcements. And shockingly, these are going fast, but I posted, I put up that I'm doing a seance in Burbank on October 4th. There's only 6 spots. It's in the seance room, and it's a really cool space. What I love about this space is that there's many different cool themed rooms. This is one of them, and I can do what I will. It's just me. I'm running the show. And you come into my world, and that's sold out. It's sold out in 2 days. I posted another one October 11th, and this will be in Burbank, California, and they'll be at 8 o'clock at night on a Friday night. I wanted to make it so people could have time. I'm learning. It only took me forever, but doing stuff on my own now, and I do this myself, I'm learning more and more. Let me. Hey, everybody, Oops, can you turn it down a little bit? Thanks. So the so I posted another date, October 11th at 8 o'clock, and it posted for a day and a half, and two of those have sold out. There's only 6 spots, so hopefully by the time you hear this, they're not sold out. I might add a third date. I'm thinking about it. On the other end of things, I am going to Utah. So, all my Utah peeps, get ready. I am going to Utah to do a seance that's going to be only 19 seats available. This will be a little bigger because the space is very much built for it. This will also be a private, meaning like this isn't a public thing. I don't really do ads on my stuff. Let's put it that way. I like to put this out to people who are very clear about what I do, know who I am, because I don't want to attract people who just go, "Ooh, cool seance, it's Halloween," and have no idea what they're stepping into. I don't really want to do that. So I tend to put this out there to people who are very familiar of my work. So anyway, so I'll be going to Utah. I'll be doing that. And then on top of that, I will be doing, if you would like a more private one on one experience, I will be doing private readings. And there will be an hour reading each. I mean, only hour readings. And I only have 16 spots available. And it seems like a lot, but I'm there from the 25th to the 28th. So it's 3 days. It's really not that much for one. And for two, I'm really not going to add any other spots. And I say this because every time I go to Utah, this will be in Sandy, Utah at the Rabbit Hole Wellness. And every time I go, people kind of sleep a little bit on getting their bookings. And then all of a sudden, everybody scrambles to get their bookings. And then when I'm there, everyone wants me to add times. I will not be able to add times. I am pacing myself in the way that's healthy for me so I can be the most optimal for everyone. That's my announcements for Halloween. I might add a third date. I also am working on doing a virtual thing. I don't want to do a virtual seance. I'm thinking of doing something where you will come along with me to a haunted location, quote unquote, because you know how I feel about hauntings. You know, or to a cemetery and have an experience with me via virtual. So it's almost like if you sign up, they'll be a little more reasonably priced since it's virtual, and you will be having an experience with me. I'm trying to create experiences and more intimate experiences, which is really what I love and prefer. Um, so let me know your thoughts. No one talks to me. I would love to hear from you. Also, Patreon people. I post daily energy climates. I have a class up. I'm going to be posting something to do another tips and tricks type of thing. But I'm also thinking of doing a Q&A on my Patreon, just exclusively for the people who are in my sacred tier. So if you have questions about the classes I'm posting, that will be available. If you are not in my sacred tier, then you should join. That opens up classes for you. I'm trying to create a way where I can know and be a little more interactive for you on the classes. Now, let's get to what I want to announce.
Time for paranormal gossip.
Time for
Paranormal gossip.
paranormal gossip. Okay, two things that you have to know about. One, you heard of the UFO cowboys? I came across this and I'm trying to pull it up. Like, let me get it. Let me pull it up. Here we go. UFO Cowboys is a TV show. Did you know it only has 2 seasons? And it's been around for 2 seasons. It's UFO Cowboys follows a group of ranchers known as the Cowboy Skywatchers. They investigate extraterrestrial encounters, paranormal activity throughout the area of the American West known superhighway using ancient tracking techniques and modern technology. This is so interesting. I saw it and they're on horses and they're running around and they are definitely UFO cowboys. So stay tuned. I'm going to check it out and I'll report back to you all to everyone. Um and we'll see what I could say y'all. I never say y'all in my life because I'm from LA and we don't say that. It's not no offense. But anyway, I just found that to be like really interesting. I was like, I even messaged McMillan from Bigfoot Collectors Club. I was like, have you heard of this? And he's like, no, should I? I go, I think you should. So I have to check it out. UFO Cowboys. It should be interesting. So stay tuned for that. And then, of course, if you're a TikTok dweller, there is a medium, psychic medium. You know how I feel about that term. If you don't, it kind of bothers me because it's a new term that's been of the past 10 years where people claim psychic medium so they can just be everything. And of course she is. She's like, I'm a psychic medium and I channel things and I found that UFOs are going to come on September 14th and 15th. Well, I am recording this on the 15th, and so far, hello, nothing. Here's the thing: aliens to me don't need to have a date, they don't need to RSVP, they don't need to say hello. I need to let you know we're coming. By the way, just put this in your calendar. We'll be there the 14th and 15th because I feel like they're interdimensional. So the craft thing of them, like, hey, we need to give you a heads up. We'll be around the 14th or the 15th. It's just, I feel like this is a great way to put content. It gets people interacting with your content. The sad thing is then you see all the people putting people like us, what we do down, and saying, oh, there's no such thing as psychic mediums. You know, the most thing I get when people don't like what I say, they don't say to me, no, I just don't believe in you. I don't believe it. They say, you don't see those things. You're not seeing anything. And especially if I'm talking about spirits, talking about religion or anything like this, or aliens, because it messes up their whole religion belief. But people get very like, just tell you, like they get aggressive. And I think it just really bothers them. But the problem is when you have people like this who are like on TikTok and they're like, hey, by the way, I channeled some aliens and they told me they're going to be running on by on the 14th and the 15th. So just, get all your cameras and your iPhones and your iPads and whatever ready cuz here we come. They give us a bad name. It sucks. It sucks so much. Like all the work some of us try to do to say no, I believe in science, I believe in things. This is a science we don't understand. We just get plummeted because we have these people and I kind of feel, and I'm going to leave it on this note, that's the point. I feel like the more they have people like that circling and putting the word out in this very silly way, it kind of gets people away from really trying to be, open minded, think outside the box, think for themselves, and believe, is there something more than what meets the eye? No, no, no. Then let's not have like an intelligent conversation about it. Let's just show the people who claim that on a certain date, aliens are going to appear. They're going to have dinner with you. They're going to, put in your calendar RSVP. Like this is the problem. It's so frustrating. It just is. So that was all mine. I just want to play
Time
it
for
again.
paranormal gossip.
That was all my paranormal gossip. So we're gonna leave and my announcements. We're gonna leave the Medium Brew Cafe and let's get back to our story with Carrie because I'm sure all of you are like, Adela, I want to know. I love how many of you interacted and said, I can't wait for part two, which tells me I need to do more of those. So let's hear what more Carrie had to say. And I had to say to her. And on
When
here.
I
So
when I see those shirts that says when I die I'm gonna haunt people and I have a list, I'm like, that's me. I know because I've already done it.
yeah,
Um,
that's awesome. exactly. Why
so
not? Yeah.
yes. So there was a couple of employees of the hospital,
Hmm.
and a male and a female, and I have no idea what they did, but they were both in scrubs and they both had their badges on. And I'm floating over them. And I mean, and they were a cute couple, you know. And I don't know if they were even a couple, but they were being very flirtatious.
Flirty.
So
Right.
I was very much about that. Um, real quick, I
You're like,
better ask.
I'm having my own soap opera show in the spirit form.
Oh yeah, it was great. And I'm like, I was laughing and giggling and at them. Before I continue, how do you feel about cursing?
I don't feel I feel I'm all
It's
for it.
okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So, they had stopped and I stopped with them and the man was trying to scan his ID card
Right.
and I said, "Well, fuck, what did I stop for? I can just go through them."
Yeah.
And then in that moment, I felt like I was going to be struck down by God, because again, I still don't know everything. Yes, I'm
Right.
having this
Right.
experience, but I don't
Right.
know anything. And now I'm in my natural form, I feel seen. I feel seen,
Right. Right.
which is a funny way to put that because people couldn't see me, but I felt seen.
Right.
And so I kind of like shrunk down and was like, oh shit, I cussed. And so that is when my God, he cracked up laughing. He thought that that was hilarious. This man thought I was a comedian. Um, so I was like, I'm not gonna get struck down, and he said, no, they're just words. They mean
Mhm.
nothing. They're just
Just
words.
words.
They mean nothing.
Nothing.
Yes, they're not. I mean, yeah, no. So, and I was like, oh, good, because I dropped those F bombs. So, um, finding out that I could drop an F bomb in spirit
Spirit
form
form.
really just said it to let me know that I'm gonna be perfectly fine when I leave here.
Right.
Um,
Exactly. You're like, I can hang here. All
yeah,
right. Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, So that was my experience with stalking the staff. And then I decided I was gonna go to John's room
Okay.
and see. That's when I decided I was gonna start checking, I guess, around to see who was where. And I went to John's room and I was up by the ceiling, but I could see all the way around me. I could see the ceiling behind me, but I could focus in and look and see everything that was going on.
Right.
And it wasn't distracting. When I think about it now, and I think if somebody tried to tell me that, I would think that that would all be very, very distracting.
Mhm.
But it's not because you can focus in on what you're looking at.
Right.
And John had his feet on the floor, but he was laid across the bed with his elbows on the bed. And I thought, well, that's weird. Why is he standing like that? So, and as I was sitting there thinking that, a friend come in and she was pulling my 2-year-old in a wagon, and
Okay.
he was eating one of them icy sickle things, a green one,
Mhm.
and in this little wagon it had little wood rails around it and he looked so cute. I was like, oh my god, look at my baby, he's so pretty. And so like I kind of zoomed in on him and I went to him, and he just he was glowing, and
Mm.
I was like, oh gosh, just melt my heart all over again, kid. um
Right.
And then I listened to some of their conversation of what they were saying. Actually, from them talking is how I found out that my daughter wasn't in the same hospital because he started asking her how my daughter was.
Okay.
Um, Yeah, and that's when I got not all of the information, but I had some part of the information, and I knew that my daughter was okay.
Okay.
Yep, I found out she was okay, and that's how I found out in spirit form that she was okay without going to her.
Right, that makes
Um,
sense. And so you
mhm,
were listening in. Okay, so you get to John, and then you saw the wagon. Okay, so then
mhm. Then my trust issues kicked in.
because you weren't sure of what.
Because then I had said to my guide, I said, I better get back to my body before it dies.
Oh,
You know,
okay,
your
yeah.
body can't be without a soul, you
So it's
know?
all too long. You're like, this is
Right.
too long,
Yeah,
right?
and he laughs at me and he said it doesn't work like that. And I said, "Well, I've seen Ghost Dad, and so better safe than sorry." And that was my exact words to him. And he laughed at me. He thought I was hilarious because here I am still having trust issues in spirit form, you know.
And then you made your way back to your body, and then what happened then?
Well, I still thought that I was just kind of moving around being nosy
Mhm.
and then I went into a room and there was a girl laying there and she was in bad shape. She was in bad shape. Um, it looked like she had dark hair, um, and the whole side of her face was
Was
like
messed up.
just so messed up.
Mhm.
And I got closer to her I even said, I was like, "Oh, that poor girl." And then I got closer, and as I got closer, over her face, I realized it was me.
Yeah, that's trippy.
And yeah, and the reason
Yeah.
why my hair looked dark was because there was so much blood in my hair.
Oh, wow.
Yes. So
Wow.
yeah, so
Okay.
my hair, it almost looked like black hair.
Right.
And I don't have blonde hair. So it I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's me."
No, you don't
And
have black hair, you do have blonde hair.
yeah. So I do have lightened hair now. But even well, then I was 21, my hair was even lighter than it is
No, so
now. It
you're
has
saying,
gotten
like,
a
you
little
didn't normally have dark hair, and you were like, "Who's this
no.
lady?" So
Yeah.
did you slip is that when you slipped inside, got kinda came back into your body?
Well, I didn't know how to go back into my body, so,
Okay.
and then I thought, well, what do I do? Just, like, move inside of it? I didn't know if I just moved straight through it or if
Right, right.
I didn't know how I would reconnect to my body.
Mhm.
And so as I'm hovering over myself, just the thought of me wanting to reconnect with my body,
Made it happen.
yeah, it's
Yes.
almost like my body absorbed me is
Right,
what it felt like.
right.
And the best way that I've ever been able to say how what that was like is almost if you have take a paper towel and lay it on top of water and the way that
It
you watch it
absorbs it.
absorb, if you could feel that, that's what that felt like.
Okay. And then the next part, the last part of this is you told John that you saw him.
Yes.
And how did he respond when you told him?
So, John was an atheist.
Okay.
Um, and when they wheeled him into my room, and when I woke up, everything hurt from head to toe. I've never been in so much pain, and I had
Wow.
given natural birth to three children.
Right.
Um, and I had never felt so much pain as I did when I woke up, and I even cried and said out loud, "Why did I choose to come back here?"
Right. I
Um,
imagine. Yeah.
yeah, but I had calmed down, and they brought him in, they wheeled him in a wheelchair, and,
Mhm.
um, I asked him, I said, "Why was you laying across your bed like that?"
Mm.
And he said, "Like what?" And I said, "You had your feet on the floor and your elbows on the bed. Why was you laying
Mhm.
on your bed like that? What happened to you?" Like, I wanted to know what his injuries were.
Right. Right.
And he said, "Carrie, you can't know that." There's no way you
Mhm.
would know that. You have been unconscious this whole time, and you're not even on the same floor as me. You haven't been in my room." And
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
was out of my body and I was
Right.
in your room. And um, I told him about Joseph being in the wagon and having the
Uh-huh.
green icy. And I told him what him and our friend had said to him. And by
Mhm.
the time I was done telling him just that part, he was bawling. He was
Wow.
bawling his eyes out because, again, he was atheist. He did not believe in things like that. It was the first time that anyone had ever proved to him
There's
that,
something else.
yes, yep.
Okay. Sorry. Is there something else?
And then that's when I proceeded to tell him
What happened?
some of the other things that happened. It was hard for me at that time, being in so much pain, to
Right, right, right.
articulate
Right.
articulate exactly what everything was, because I couldn't just sit there and talk. Everything hurt. Plus my jaw was broken. So
Oh my god. Yeah. Wow. Okay. So I'm excited. Let's get into it. We're going to start and we're going to flow right through this pretty easily.
okay.
So, the reason why I believe, starting from the beginning, that you had an NDE, because when you have a near death experience, it doesn't necessarily mean you died and then went to this other realm. You were unconscious, so you were kind of. So, let's put it this way. Let's start from the beginning. When you came out of your body like that, this is very much how it happens. You just kind of pop out, and you are fully in your, first of all, you're in your free form. Every person I ever read, Carrie, for thousands of readings I've done for people on the other side, always say, you just pop right out and you're just truly yourself. And I'm really shocked that I saw everybody and everything pretty easily, that I'm in the same space. I saw what people were doing in the room or in the hospital or whatever. And then I didn't realize it was going to be that easy. The other thing a lot of people say all the time is, I was given a choice. Not every time, because some people, their bodies don't have a choice. But if they're in the in between, they are said all the time, well, I was given a choice and then I looked and saw what it would have been like if I lived and the life I would have had. And I'm sorry, and I know this is hard for people to understand, but I had to walk away because I knew you guys would be fine. Everything you're saying about, I know you would be fine. The other thing that I thought was so important, it's hard for people to understand, is because you're a mom and you had your kids and you're like, why wasn't I thinking of this? People always tell me, like, immediately, I just feel like I'm okay here. And if
Mhm.
people choose to come back, it is because there is almost like a subconscious, like, I do have some things I need to do. And that's the part you don't remember, because my
Yep.
feeling is they went over all of that. They said, listen, and I always say to people, even before we're born, there's a home that we all come from, we all return. And even coming here, we're kind of given the cliff notes, like, well, this is the kind of parents you'll have. They have a choice to do better. They can be better people. We can't tell you for sure if they will, because you're not supposed to know every single thing, but you do know that it might be tough, or these are the lessons you might learn and stuff. And then when you're born, you kind of don't remember all that. And so, because trust me, as a reader, I'm always trying to cheat that way, and I'm allowed to see a lot, but they will say, and I'll talk about who the they are. They will say, you have to have the human experience, Adela. You're not allowed to know all the things.
Mhm.
And I'll always be like, and I get frustrated. But the other thing, before, I did not forget the long caped man that picked up your daughter. I have popped out of my body before, few times. Once on purpose. I was meditating, not even meditating, just talking to what you call the guides. And I was like, I'm tired of talking to you guys telepathically. I just want to see you. And they're like, are you sure? And I go, yeah. And I popped out of my body and I was crawling around my apartment floor but I thought I was had a stroke because my whole body like froze up. And what happens when that happens is I wasn't totally letting go like you did, because I was like way too conscious. So I was like, oh shit, like So I freaked out, and two guys in long black coats were there, and they were like, just get up, just that's how they act. The what you're
Yeah,
describing, this very casual way. They're like, just
yeah,
stand up, and I was like, well, I can't,
yeah.
and I was like
And they just think
crawling.
you're being silly.
They're like, get over it. Yeah. And I'm freaking out and I'm like trying to hit the TV, but my hand wouldn't hit it. And I'm crawling all over the floor and I'm like, that's it. I'm dead and had a stroke. They're like, you're fine. Just stand up. Okay. And then years later, um, I did have an incident where I had a cast on wrong and it was pushing on an artery, and I popped out of my body. Same thing on the couch. The, the same long black coat guy was there. Two of them. It's always like two of them whenever I see them. I don't know why. Maybe mine are two. I don't feel like it's the same for everybody.
They knew
But
you was gonna be enough trouble you needed to. They only sent me one. I'm non-problematic.
very problematic, because you know what I said? I went, well, there's the door. I knew it would be this easy. I told them, and this was before I had a kid. I said, so let's be on our way. And I knew that if we walked through that door, that was it. I was going to take off like what you described, like,
Hmm.
because I had been doing it. I teach people how to do that, how to take off to that. So that's what I'm going to talk to you about. Take off high, go to the higher, what they call the higher planes. And that's what I'm going to describe what happened to you when you went to the black void part and then you saw the light. So they knew I was very well versed, because since I was a little girl, I would have dreams of flying and I would try to make all the way and I'd hear going too far and I would crash. Like, you can't go this far. Like, you have, like, you're gonna, like, you have to be alive basically. So I know exactly what you're talking about. And those guys that some people see them, they call them the black hat guys. It's kind of like a cloak they wear so you don't totally see them. In other words, like, our sight isn't allowed to see them all the way, because then you're like gonna be too involved. It's like, just
Hmm.
know we're here. We're kind of cloaking who we are so you're not too connected, because you see how much you got fully pulled in and you felt all that love and you were like, okay, this is awesome. Yeah, they kind of purposely don't want us to get too attached to them, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
So anyway, so I know that's what happened with the cloak and the pulling with your child, for sure.
yeah. And she, I mean, we were going 70 miles per hour when we rolled,
Hmm.
and we rolled that 4 times before she was ejected from the vehicle and land on the concrete. So the fact that she didn't become a part of that concrete
Yeah, it's insane.
is insane. Yes.
It's
Like, yes,
insane.
she had to be airlifted, but it's because they were worried that her lungs had collapsed. And the hospital in Cadillac wasn't equipped to take care of
Okay.
pediatrics, which is why they airlifted her to Grand Rapids, because they were worried that maybe her lungs had collapsed because that man had said that she wasn't breathing.
Right.
Which by the time the ambulance comes, she was breathing. So yeah, she had to, that's why she was, but the fact that she didn't become a part of that concrete, she has one scar from that car accident. She has a scar under her chin.
Wow.
Hmm.
Yeah. This is amazing. I think people think they're guardian angels. They're not guardian angels. They're kind of like the beings that kind of help work with this planet. They kind
Hmm.
of, I call them, like, they're kind of like they help, they're involved. They don't really call themselves angels. They call them like helpers basically, and they kind of help with the physical plane. Okay, so now when you pop out of your body and you're looking at the window and you're like seeing yourself, this is very much just like I told you. I did, just like being in my room. That's very much how it works. That is an astral projection. That is an out of body experience. But the difference is you went up. Astral projection is mostly just this world. Like what like what I did, like walking around, my
Mhm.
apartment, crawling around, trying to I was trying to leave the astral plane, and I was like, so noted, it was easy. Let's go to the door. And they were like, I heard not today, and they grabbed my foot, and I came back in my body. And that's astral when you're coming around this place. That's why I always tell people astral projection is just like you're just checking, like what checking things around. Oh, what's going on around my house? What's my neighbor doing? That's astral. But what you changed to was going up to the higher planes. And when you go to the higher planes, and I know this because I teach this a million times in a meditation journey, I'll say we're going to go up, and you go up past the planets. And I've had people go, oh, I got kind of stuck there because I got too scared, but you were like, nope, I'm good. And I call in what I call them the master teachers. They're not master like you have to worship, because I've actually had some ex-Mormons I did this class for. They were like, I don't like that term, that's making me remind me of church. I go, no, 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 they're not master like master you have to worship. They're like professors. They're like very well versed in that realm. So they try to help you, and they do have a very laugh. They laugh because they see us as like children,
Yeah. But he
right?
did at no time did he ever make me feel like he was above me.
No, 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 no,
So
no, no.
that
There's no hierarchy.
right,
But
yeah, I
but
never
but
felt
if
like
we
that.
properly like what I mean by they see us like children, like if you have a lovingness towards children, not the way
Yes.
you would look down on a child. Like somebody who has a loving attitude towards a child doesn't look down on a child. I always say to people, you don't look at a kindergartner and laugh at them or make them feel bad because they don't know geometry. You just go, oh, they just don't understand it. It's very
Yeah.
loving. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. There's no
Yeah,
hierarchy
he
there.
thought I was adorable.
No, they just think it's very sweet and cute, and they kind of go like, "Okay, yes, we know you're a little bit," on purpose, because they're like, "Yeah, she's not sure. Of course, she's a little bit like a deer, kind
Yeah.
of trying to get her legs, and she's not sure what's going on. And they just don't have any problem with it.
Mhm.
That's because there isn't any hierarchy. They don't see
Mhm.
themselves as above. That's why when I say master teacher, they just kind of know that they're like professors, where they're like,
Mhm.
we know this realm very well. We know how it works. And so we will help you get readjusted. No problem. No big deal.
Yeah.
That's the energy, right? So
Mhm.
what happens is whenever I call in those energies for people to help pull them, you know what? I go, we're going to go up, 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 up to the higher planes, which just means we're going out of this world. We're going into the other realm. When you went into
Mhm.
that dark space, that's because it's kind of like we're passing through from this. That's basically what people call the veil. That means the veil is not literally a veil, but your sight has to go away from this world to that world.
Oh,
So when the
yeah.
light comes on, you're like, oh, I get it. I see it. I'm here. I see my grandparents. I see this guy joking around. I feel all the love. I can see everything. And there is a feeling where you don't feel like in a rush to get to your kids, because immediately you know everything. You don't know why you know, but you're like, okay, I remember. This is just like a trip we're on. This is just a trip.
Yeah.
This isn't the end all be all. This isn't the only thing. And the reason why I'm getting so excited is because I love that I get the validation from these experiences, because I've told people that they tell me all the time. People get very almost like taken back, because the people who pass will say, I hate to tell you this, but I'm fine. Like you guys are in that stuck world. Like you're in that like mundane world, but
Yeah.
we're like okay here, and I will help you, but I'm not like upset about missing things like you think, because I know now that this isn't everything, this world. And that car I cared about, and that house I cared about, and that job I was so obsessed on just seems really kind of not that big of a deal anymore.
And how I explain it to people is so when I didn't care while I was there, because I realized it would be like when you were in high school and you had a class and you were dreading that class, but you had to go do that hour class, and you go in and you do that hour class, and then once
Mm-hmm.
you leave that class doesn't matter anymore. And it seemed like that
Yes.
hour was going to last forever.
Ever.
And then when
Right.
it's over, you're
Because it's
like, and
perspective. It's
yes,
the
and then
right.
later on, you're like, oh wow, that was very, very, I high school flew by, and
Yes.
so it's kind of like that, and you're like, when you have kids and they're in high school, and you're like, they're in a class at that time, you do not really care what they're doing in their class at that moment.
Right.
And so
Right.
it's
Right.
like that when you're there, it's like if your child was at school for the day, depending on how old your kids are, you're like, where they're at, you love them, even though you're away
Mm-hmm.
from them,
The
but they're
only
just
the
at school.
the only difference I will say, okay, so first of all, I literally use this example all the time. I tell people, I go, I don't think you understand. People in that realm, they see it like they went away from high school and they're in like college now. So it's
Yeah.
not real. This world isn't, and people just get very, it's hard for people to understand. I go, it's not, this isn't the all of living. You still are conscious there. You're still you. I always tell people the same thing.
Mhm.
You look like you're you. You're your
Mhm.
same person. You're just not in the physical form. And they always say, it felt like I just dropped this like heavy like thing off my body.
Yeah.
And I was in this the weird thing about me, because I've been doing these weird things since I was a kid, when I had that happen to me that time where I saw those two guys and I was like, let's go for the door. I was like, okay, yeah, whatever, that thing over there. Okay, let's go. Like it felt very like normal, more normal.
Yeah.
The having a body has always felt not normal to me. Okay, anyway, what's really cool is that when you were kind of in you go into that space and you're saying like, you see them and you have the people. This is very common even when oh, that's what I wanted to say. The thing about you is that you weren't totally past, so you weren't totally there. So the reason why when you saw yourself, you saw you were like, I'm me, but I'm not in a physical form. When people die, they can change their image to anything they want. They start to learn how that world works. They're like, oh, that's right. I'm not in a physical body. I could change my physical form. I can look like anything I want. They learn how to go, oh, I'm going to go now, like find my kid real quick and like see what's going on with them, because they're fully gone. You were in the in between. You weren't
Mhm.
fully gone, but it was
Yeah.
still a near death. That's why I still see it as a near death experience, because the choice part is very pivotal. I have helped people cross. I had a client who got very sick where I was talking to her in that spirit, in that place where she didn't know she was in the hospital. And they said, and people were texting me going, as you're talking to her and texting us what she's saying, her body vitals are changing.
Oh, I
Yeah,
love that.
it was very trippy because she was on a breathing machine. She didn't know. And I said, and she saw me because I had read for her for years. And she said, if I see you, am I dead? That's what she said to me. And I was like, no, you're not, but it's bad. And she was like, look, and then just like you said, because she was kind of not aware. I think she wasn't as like her spirit wasn't as conscious what was going on with her body. It's almost like she wasn't
Because she didn't
facing it.
focus on it.
She didn't focus on it. And so
Yeah.
I said, I kind of pulled, I said, take that off of your face, like basically open your eyes, look at yourself. And she said, oh God, I see now. And she heard, and she was telling me what they were saying about machines there, because her heart was bad.
Oh,
And they were like, the people texting me were like, oh, that's exactly what's happening. The doctors are talking to us about the machines. And she was like, I can't go to that life. I'm not going to live on a machine. You're going to have to help everyone get over my passing,
that
because
is
I'm
a
going to have
beautiful
to
ending.
go. Right. So she was like, I have to go now. I'm sorry to do this to you, but can you help them, please? And that's because she decided she did have a choice. And you're
Mhm.
right, you have a choice. I'm not allowed to even tell her what to do. And the being that you're talking about, there's one being that tends to help, which is Saint Michael. I call him Saint Michael, but they're just energies. They're not literally these people. They're not people. They're not like someone with long hair and a sword. Like, they're not what people draw them to be.
Maybe
But
that's why I couldn't see mine.
yes, they're an
Because he
energy.
he was an energy that I never
Right.
thought about that. I
Yeah.
always had thought maybe that they had taken my memory of what he looked like is why
No, they
I'd
don't
never
really. He
seen
doesn't.
him.
Yeah, they don't really. He doesn't really have an image. He has more of an energy.
An
Sometimes people
energy.
will see the energy as like very tall, very like, but that energy is very like, they're almost kind of more, a little bit more serious in the sense of like, you need to decide. You have to
Yeah.
decide.
And
And I
like how
remember,
I said, you could see all the way around you, and
yes,
I could see him beside me,
that's
but I
right.
could not see him. I
Right.
did not see his
Right.
face. It wasn't a
Because
glow
it's
like
not really a face. It's like an
no.
energy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I could see him there, but I could not see him as in like being
that's
able to
right.
describe what he looked like or anything like that. And so yeah, I always assumed that they had taken that from my memory.
No, that's just
But
because
that
I
makes
work.
sense.
Yeah, because I work with that energy. And even when I've worked with people who are passing that energy, who I call Saint Michael, because that's who I deem that energy, which represents the protector between the worlds, also represents helping people like cross or not cross. Um, and he has always been he's kind of very strict on the between the worlds. That's the energy. That's what that energy does. And that energy has told me, you can't tell them to leave or not leave. You can't interfere with their decision. You can only inform them what's going on. So don't even try it, because if you do, you'll get kicked out of helping them right now. So there's
Mhm.
like rules, but not rules in a way. So that's what I feel like you experienced when you were deciding, and they said, well, if you don't come back, another energy, remember you said that you think it's a
Mhm.
walk in? It's not really that. What they're basically saying is, you just can't, won't be the same. Like, you
Yeah.
will be partly there. And this has happened to people who have had these near death type of things. They're
Mhm.
kind of like not all the way here, like they're kind of still staying there in a way. They're not
Yeah.
fully being like conscious here. People have gotten
Mhm.
depressed, people have had a hard time being here. So I feel like what they were trying to warn you is, you won't be your full self. You almost be checked out a little bit, kind of one foot in, one foot out.
I was checked out for a long time after coming back, because
Hmm.
after doing that, I don't feel like anyone can have that experience and come back
No,
and not be
never.
checked out for
Right.
quite a while. I was checked
Sure.
out for quite a while, and I just kind of went with the motions of what was happening in my life without taking a hold of myself or my emotions or anything.
Hmm.
It was whatever.
Yeah.
Um, one other part that I forgot to mention was that there was a part when I was not wanting to come back, where they were explaining to me that almost like how you had said doors, that every soul has exit doors throughout our life. We have different exit doors
Hmm.
that at that time our soul decides if they're going to take that exit door or not.
Hmm.
And so um I remember them telling me when I would have another exit door. So I'm kind
Okay.
of coming up on it, and I'm like, am I though? What am I gonna do? Am I
Because it's
ready
your,
to go?
yeah, because it's your choice. It's true. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a door. People on the other side always describe it as like they just walked through one door into another room, from this
Hmm.
place to that space. And people are always shocked, because there's a lot of people in the spiritual community will describe things like, oh, there's a lost soul. They're not aware that they died. I'm like, that's never the case. Like in your case,
Hmm.
you weren't totally there, and you still were very aware of stuff. And
Mhm.
people who totally pass, I'm like, that's not true. They're aware
Yeah.
right away. I've read people the same hour, the same minute. It's not true. That's people. Those are readers that are just kind of taking advantage of your pain. It's not true. But yes, they always
Yeah, because
they.
I never,
Mhm.
the moment that I felt like I was a little bit lost, I had someone there with me.
Yeah, they will
The
help you. Yes, exactly.
the very moment
Very
I felt
moment.
like I was lost. Like there's no way
Yes,
that a soul could be stuck or be lost
exactly.
is because
It's
the
only the souls that refuse to accept they died. Like, it's just like in life, if someone's just like, I'm in denial. I don't want to know. I just don't want to know.
Mhm.
And I've had spirits that go like, you're in denial. You are dead. And they're like, no, I didn't. And I'm like, you did. And they're like, okay, you're right. I've had a hard time accepting it. It's just
Yeah.
like in life. People tend to not want to accept things. It's too hard to
And
face.
ignore the obvious
Ignore the
because
obvious. Right.
it's obvious because you feel
Right.
so much better. You feel
Yes.
so much better
Right.
that it is obvious that you are no longer
You're
weighed
no
down.
longer in your body.
Yeah.
And I always have them say to me like, I'm we're not trying to glorify it, and I've actually, and this is very important because this is probably what happened to you. They'll say, I think there's a reason why people don't know fully how it's like here, because it would make it very hard to live in that world. So now I understand why we're not really clear on
Mhm.
everything. And that's why some of that's wiped from you. Because
Yes.
if you remembered everything, it would be even harder to be here.
Yeah.
And
It's why
so,
I suffered so much when I came back was because
yes,
I was so sad. I was so depressed. I was
right.
so defeated feeling. I felt I felt like I had been trapped. It was like I had escaped from prison and
Yeah.
I almost got away and then I was taken back to myself.
Yeah. No,
It
it's
was
funny.
depressing.
It's interesting because when I was a kid, people thought I was very strange because even though I was raised in the religion, I think that's why it never clicked with me because I saw things and I would see other worlds. And I used to say to people, I never wanted to do this human experience. And they're like, what are you talking about? I'm like, well, I'm not a human. This isn't my life. And they would say, what do you understand? I go, well, I don't really understand why we need these bodies. I used to be able to fly. I used to be able to think things and then I would just be there. And I was like, all of this talking words are really annoying. So when you even said, the guy said it's just words, I've always heard that. Like they're
Yeah,
just words. It's not
yeah.
that important
You have
because
no idea how much I can relate to all of that
I
because
see. Hmm.
I even have memories of before being born telling myself I'm going to remember, I'm going to remember, I'm going to remember, like telling myself
Yeah.
that before I was born. I also remember feeling anxious before I was born because I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm doing this again. And people are like, you believe in reincarnation? Yes, because I know I've been here before. I already know it. And
Well,
um,
what's interesting is I I'm willing to believe that it could be just me, but I don't believe in reincarnation actually.
mhm,
And it but I don't take away that belief from other people. It just doesn't resonate with me. Part
mhm,
of the reason why it doesn't resonate is cuz my memory is like, "Oh, you're going to go there." And I was like, "I don't want to go there. I'm fine where I
mhm,
am here. I'm having a great time. I'm fine." And
mhm.
feeling like somebody like knocked me down, like kicked me, like going, "You got to go. It's your turn." I don't believe in reincarnation because of what they've shown me in that world, because as you saw, there's so much other realms. But that's just mine. I'm not taking away your anyone else's belief at
Well,
all.
also though, when I say reincarnation, I mean other places, other things. Like
Okay.
yes,
Yes.
like I don't
Yes.
believe
I believe that.
that I have necessarily been a human on this planet before,
Right.
but I absolutely
Been
believe
here.
that I have been a tree. I have been everything on this planet has a soul in it. Everything
Mm.
on this planet is
Mhm.
alive. And
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
yes, and so and I have that connection now.
Maybe you believe it because this is just what I believe, that everything's connected. So,
Yes.
the one thing that I feel like I remember experiencing is looking at this earth and going and being a part of helping people, but not in the physical form. And that's what I remember. Like, I helped
Mhm.
people and I was like, I don't really need to go there because I understand earth from helping people. And it was
Mhm.
kind of like, you have to go experience it yourself because you really don't understand everything like you think you do. That's just my
And
thing.
then it's scary knowing that you're going to come here and that you're not going to have any memory of
What
who
before?
you are or before,
Right.
or that everything
Hmm.
is going to be okay. It's like we all decided to get on this roller coaster
Yeah.
that's going to take a
I always
freaking
call it like a
500,
camp. We
yeah,
all came to this
500
camp.
foot nosedive, like we know what is coming.
Yeah, exactly. This was a crazy
I don't
roller
want
coaster.
to
I know, it's true.
go.
Okay, so the last thing I wanted to say was when you were going around the hospital, that is very much astral projection, 100,000%. But the very last part of this story, which is awesome, when you see yourself and you make your way. Well, by the way, those beings, they knocked you back to your body. That's why you got to the hospital so fast, because they're the ones that they kind of shot you there. It was like, it's time for you to go and find your way back, to go back to your body. But whenever I show people how to like go out of their body and I have how them travel, I always call it like Velcro. You called it a really cool thing, like water being absorbed from a towel. But I always say now, find, because I have to help people slowly come back. And then I
Mhm.
say, okay, now you're going to Velcro into your body. And it's not like people go out as far like the way you did, not to that extreme, but they get a taste of it. And people most of the time feel very emotional. They're crying because they're like, oh, I just remembered I saw home. I forgot what it felt like to not be in this body. So the way you even came back, you is exactly how you're supposed to do it. You just kind of float back, kind of Velcro back into your body, and then it's like boom, you feel
Mhm.
the heaviness.
Yep.
So everything you're describing to me, and those are my explanation, is absolutely an NDE, a slash OBE, so a near death experience and an out of body experience. I feel you had more of a near death experience than you think, because even though your body was still alive, it all it would have took is you to say, you know what, I'm going to stay, and then it would have not been, you would have been
Yeah.
gone. So
Yeah.
that's kind of what people don't realize. So this was an amazing story. I so
Thank
appreciate
you.
you sharing this with me. Not to mention the whole SDA thing. Funny note, my father was, big SDA, and I used to always tell him, when I saw when these things started happening and I started acknowledging them more, he was like, "Oh, there's spirits around me, watching me go to the bathroom." Like, he would joke and stuff because they believe you're dead, you're dead. But he
Yeah.
wouldn't joke in a bad way. It was just like very playful, and he was
Yeah.
open because he had some experiences he didn't want to talk about, a near death
Mhm.
experience. And I
Yeah.
said, "Well, I'll tell you what. If you die before me, come tell me I was right." The night he died, I laid in his bed. I was the only one. Everyone was scared to sleep in the bed. They were scared. I wasn't. And I went down this hall and I kept seeing a light flashing and hearing my baby girl. And I was going towards that
Mm.
light. And I heard something go again, too far. And I woke up and I was like, so I guess you told me I was right.
Yep.
Like, I guess you figured it out that we don't
Mhm.
just go into the ground. And so I feel like it is life changing when you've been terrified as a kid and treated to be afraid of all these things. I'm sure it had a huge impact on your life. And I'm sure it
Mhm.
changed you forever. I believe
Yeah.
that 100%.
Oh, it did. It made me who I am now. I don't know who I would be if I would have never had that experience.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for
Thank
coming
you.
on.
Thanks for
This was
having
the
me. Thanks for
best.
letting me tell you.
I love it. I'm so glad I bugged her to come on. As soon as she made a comment and I went like, "Well, you need to come on my podcast and tell this story." And she's like, "Okay." And I was like, "Oh, okay, that worked."
It's funny because I actually just come across you on my FYP. We weren't even friends on
No, no,
TikTok.
no.
And I
Yeah.
seen your video and I commented on it, and so I had no idea that
Right.
had been raised Seventh Day
No,
Adventist.
no, 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 no.
And
No, no,
and I
no. The
happened to put
stars
that,
aligned.
yeah, I happened to put that in that comment, and I guess it really like snatched your attention.
Oh yeah, because I was like, she had this experience and she says, "Yeah, I knew exactly what you meant when you said it changed you. I knew
Mhm.
exactly what you meant." Thank you
Yeah.
so much, Carrie. I hope
Thank
everybody,
you.
I'm sure they enjoyed this. And thank you so much for like just taking us on this amazing journey with
Oh,
you.
you're very welcome. Thank you too for letting me.
No problem. Bye bye. So I love how she's just like spying on people, flirting with each other, having conversations, but it's very confirmation for me because this is how the spirit world always shows me how that we're just like right in your vicinity of you. It's no big deal. We see everything. We know what's going on. You guys just don't see us. um how much she's in right there, and they're just completely, also how he's telling her, you know what, it's like just words. Why are you worrying about cussing? And he thinks it's funny. He looks like a child. Also, what I saw was a being that was helping her children and helping her, and when she realized that she's the one that needed to allow, have herself come back. Like she had the choice, and really what pulled her here. And I just want everybody to know, because it could make you feel like, oh, there's people I know who passed. Did they not want to come back enough? Is that why? It's not that. It's just sometimes, and she doesn't remember, as you hear, she doesn't remember all the things she saw. But a lot of people will tell me, I saw how my life was going to be, you know, maybe they're not going to be healthy, maybe their body's going to be messed up, and they convey, I don't want to be in that type of way. If I'm going to be alive, that's not the way I want to live. I want to be healthy. I want to be whole. So she doesn't remember. Now the walk-in type of thing, the walk-in spirit, I did have a client once come to me. She was an older woman. She was very witchy. And she was like, she asked for a medium because she said she wanted old school medium. She didn't want a tarot card reader. And she said that she was a walk-in, that there was a young girl, that little girl passed, and she walked into her body, and she wanted me to tell her when she got to walk out. I didn't really believe this to be exactly accurate with her, but I did believe she had very strong psychic abilities because I could tell, could feel it, and it was really interesting. I'm not sure it doesn't really fit what I believe and I see, but I feel like what really happens, and what she didn't understand, is that you have to go finish your life. You may not be the same person, because who is the same person after they have a near death experience? They're not. Nobody's the same person. So I just have a feeling what really happened is that something, they were telling her, when you go back, you will no longer be that person. You will be a completely different person, and you will play out your life. It is true that does happen, but not so much like, okay, you're going to take over and this person's going to die. It's not something I've really ever seen in the 2 decades, or over the 2 decades of me doing this. But I do believe that what happens is that when you go into that realm, you don't come back the same at all. It's also kind of connects almost to me in the same way that my mother died when I was 10 days old. And I feel like when my mother died, it created an open door. She like got me dressed to get me to meet some people who were visiting the baby. I'm doing air quotes for not listening. That's me. And she laid me down in my crib and walked out, and she passed on. I and she really just kind of dropped dead. And I feel like her spirit just immediately came to me and kept the door open. And I kind of feel like things like that happen and change you. I definitely feel like this gift was part of is natural to me, but I do feel that that's part of what might have created it. Much like I feel with Carrie, that she was being told, you will never be the same after this. I think that's more like it's almost like being reborn, if that makes sense. The true sense of being reborn. Don't get upset, Carrie, because I'm not talking SDA, Seventh day Adventist shit to you. Don't worry. But I mean, the true meaning of being reborn is when you truly change in your core, not someone having to save you from the sky. So I found it very interesting. Anyway, this was amazing. Thank you so much, Carrie, for sharing this with us. We all loved it. We all appreciate it. It was definitely one of my favorites, but I really don't have a favorite, to be fair. I just feel like I don't get a lot of these types of stories. The only other one I've done is Bill. I don't get a lot of near death experience and out of body experience ones. So if you have them, please send them in. And this was a very, very detailed one, very similar to Bill Letson's story. Thank you all so much. Don't forget to send in those emails to Adele Levine. Oh, no, to the house medium. Don't send them to Adele Levine. You can, but it'll get lost. Send them to the house medium at Gmail. Follow me on Instagram at Adele Levine or the house medium, and TikTok. You can find Adele Levine anywhere. YouTube, you can watch my podcasts on YouTube. Feel free to watch or listen on my YouTube channel. And also, don't forget, I'm coming to Utah October 25th to the 28th, and I'm doing a seance. Check out the things. I post them on my Instagram and on my website, adelelevine.com. I'm always posting. Follow yourself, follow no one, listen to your inner voice, and I'll see you soon.